Who here remembers Rollcage? Of course you do. For those that don't, let me fill you in. Rollcage was a racing game released during the PlayStation 1 days. It had a really unique style to it because of the shape of the cars that you had to drive. It allowed for a much more chaotic and risky style of driving because no matter what side you were on, you could still drive forward. Even if you flip upside down, you can continue to drive around. Think of it like one of those old school remote control cars you'd get back in the day. Now if you chuck on some conventional racing game items like missiles, boosts, mines and all that stuff, you have yourself a really fun combat racing game. Now, as of very recently, a company called Caged Element released Grip on Steam Early Access. Grip is considered to be the spiritual successor to the Rollcage series. You only really have to take one look at the game to see that that is very much true. As Grip is indeed an early access title, please don't consider this video a full-on review. More of an early impressions video for a game that I've been looking forward to for a very long time, as I have been a huge fan of the Rollcage games for a very long time, definitely since I was a kid. A game with a lot of interesting and fun elements indeed, but like many games, the good does come with a little bit of frustration as well. There are a few little bugs here and there that are understandable as an early access title, but that aside, let's get started. The game launches with a selection of different modes to play. You have your basic racing, which is the meat and potatoes of the game right now, a battle mode, where the objective is to destroy other cars and score the most points, a time trial, which is as you'd expect, solo racing, with boosts as the only item to help optimise the best route for each track, and a playground, which is a fun little extra to show off the capabilities of the game's features and the engine. Let's talk about the racing first. You currently have 3 tracks to choose from, and this is done by picking the planet that you want first. The whole idea of the game is that you have multiple routes to take if you want to. Some are harder to navigate but seem to act more as shortcuts, some have more chances to get a pickup, and so on. You really feel like you have a lot more freedom here, and each route has its own risk versus rewards. My personal favourite track so far is the one that isn't finished. It currently exists to demonstrate an idea, but the idea itself is insanely fun. A track based around tunnels that you have complete freedom to drive around, but there are built-in obstacles that force you to remember their location for each lap. The crazy thing here is once you have 7 other cars all trying to navigate the same tunnel, it gets insanely manic real fast. This brings me on to my first big positive. The game is insane. You rarely get to play a true combat racing game these days. A lot of races became a little bit too realistic and simulation-like for my liking. Grip takes me back to when the games were more about destruction and chaos, and the weapons you pick up only make up half of that chaos. The other half comes from the nature of how the tracks are built. Driving on the ceiling to dodge a mine, or taking an alternate road last minute because you just ate a missile. These things make up a really unique experience I haven't felt in a very long time. The shape of the cars does actually really help your control as well in some areas. If you manage to spin out or you flip, the nature of how the cars have been put together means that even if you spiral out, if you catch air, there's always the chance that you can land on your feet, even if you land on your head instead. As Grip is indeed a combat racing game, you do have a selection of weapons that appear on the ground over the course of the track. These are picked randomly, and you have a mixture of offensive and defensive weapons. You have 2 different types of missile. One of these will lock onto the opponent and send them off course, and the other missile will only track the first place. Think of it like a blue shell in Mario Kart, the exact same kind of deal. Now, my one gripe with these missiles comes from the fact that you really can't shoot an opponent if they're point blank. You have to deliberately wait for them to go slightly ahead, which when you're trying to race someone can be a bit of a pain. And more importantly, in the battle mode, where you're trying to battle against an opponent, you have to wait for them to go a specific range before you can shoot them. It gets kind of annoying. The other offensive weapon you have is a minigun. Now, I actually personally find the minigun to be the most effective weapon out of everything. The minigun creates a barrage of bullets that will fly forward and spin out anybody that it comes into contact with. This is really effective at taking out multiple groups of cars as well. Now, here's where the frustration comes into things. If you minigun somebody, they spin out. However, they have a really nasty habit of spinning out right in front of you. So you try and take somebody out to go past them, they spin out, you crash into them, you both start spinning out, and it's extremely counterproductive. I'm not really sure how that could be worked around, but it is a very common thing, and it kind of deters you from even using the weapon, considering this is supposed to be a combat racing game. It's a little bit frustrating. So, you have a mine as well. The mine does what it says on the tin. You plant it behind you. If they come into contact with it, the opponent spins out. It's as simple as that. You have a boost. The boost gives you a crazy boost of speed, as you would expect. But you've got to be really careful when using this, because if you're going too fast or you use it on the wrong part of the track, It's just not the kind of speed you want in that situation, and you're going to go completely out of control. You have a shield as well. This is the final item currently in the game, and the shield is a fantastic tool if you're first place. It protects you from all damage and especially missile attacks. If you're player 1, you really need one of these shields, because if you get hit by a player 1 tracking shot, you haven't really got to worry about it. My main gripe with the weapons though actually come with the pickups themselves. I don't feel like the weapons actually regenerate fast enough. What I mean by this is that some parts of the map have enough weapons for everybody, and obviously not everyone is going to be able to get weapons all the time. However, there are certain situations on some of these tracks where if someone is ahead of you, they will constantly pick up the weapons, use them up, and then pick up more before you have a chance to collect anything at all. This basically means that not only are they going to have the chance to get boosts and mines and things that will keep them in the lead, but you're losing all chance you ever had of actually regaining the lead from them, because they're taking all of the weapons and it doesn't regen fast enough for you to collect anything. I've even seen some situations where the person in front of you actually collects both pickups at exactly the same time, so there isn't even a shred of a chance that you can pick up at least one of them. There are frustrating elements to this game. AI that are complete arseholes driving in the way of you when they should be focusing on the track themselves. The items that I mentioned earlier where there doesn't seem to regenerate fast enough. But my biggest gripe actually comes from the lack of control you have when you start spinning out. What I mean by this is that when you hit small little bumps on the track, the second you land, it's like you're driving on ice. You try and recover and then you hit something else. It doesn't feel like there is enough control when you hit small little bumps. I'm all for having to recover off mistakes off giant jumps if you misplay, but these small little bumps that are just built into the track can be really frustrating, and it just doesn't seem like you have enough control there. Returning back to the gameplay again, one of the absolute funnest parts of this game does come from the battle mode. Now, I've said it earlier, the point is that you destroy the other cars, you survive as long as possible, but that's basically the beginning of it. This whole thing is really fun. I find that the gameplay of Grip caters to a battle mode system really well, and I can imagine doing this with loads of friends would actually be a hell of a laugh, especially seeing because it's incredibly chaotic. Definitely the most crazy part of the game so far. The lack of control I talk about when you spin out and stuff doesn't really apply to this game mode, because the maps cater to the kind of combat incredibly well. You have the Biodome, which is definitely my favourite map so far. You can do some really cool stuff when it comes to dodging projectiles on that map, and you even have a Christmas map, which is a little bit buggy. I think we'll leave it at that. But other than that, it's a very simple game mode, very, very accessible, and even if you're not that great at the racing, I assume you'll have a lot of fun with the battle mode. There are a couple of little bugs here and there, but again, it's early access, so it is excusable. So that's all about the battle mode. Really good fun, definitely worth trying. So that just about wraps things up here. Like I said, this wasn't really a full-on review. It was going to be sort of my early impressions on what is there at the moment. As I said, the game is early access, so there isn't a ton of content, but what is there is extremely fun. Not without its flaws, but let's be real here, what game doesn't, especially when it's early access and yet to be released fully. So I definitely think Cage Element have done a fantastic job. The art style is really good. The game graphically looks absolutely superb. I'm a really big fan of the sound design. The cars actually sound fantastic. They feel really good to drive. You really feel like you're driving this giant hunk of metal that's going 500 miles an hour, so good job there. But the one thing I really have to bring on is the music is fantastic. It really is the kind of music that we had during Rollcage 1 and Rollcage Stage 2. It's just been given a much more modern feel to it, because as you know, you can obviously tell we're in 2016. The music remains the same as it was, but it just sounds a lot cleaner, a lot clearer, and it fits the game to a T. But that's Grip. Really, really good fun. I'm having a lot of fun with it so far, and I can't wait for future updates. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.